at any point, if we can just really help to empower them, to help them find their unique voice, to help them, figure out what their passions are, as many times as I can avoid the 40-year-old where you look around and you're realizing I live someone else's dream. I'm not happy. I'm successful, quote unquote, but I'm not happy. I just don't want that for our society anymore. And so I'm just trying as best as I can to avoid that.
I remember when I was in school, and like many people, I guess in elementary school, you're trying to find your way. You're so young. You're like a living version of Facebook, Instagram, and social media, right? Where you have like 1,000 friends, and you feel like you're the best thing in the world. But school for me, when it became really important, when I began to love it and began to love learning, was when I started connecting with my teachers. And excuse me, one of the teachers I connected with the best was an English teacher. At the time, high school, you're what, 15, 16 years old? And I remember her looking so old, right?
Great.
But but when you're 16, what's old? 30? So,
Right.
right? And I remember she made me love literature, from Shakespeare to Macbeth to I studied Greek mythology, was because of her, and I have such a love for Greek and Roman mythology. It was because of her English class that I decided that to take English all the way throughout high school and all the way throughout college and university. Even though back then, I don't think you and I are too far in age, but it wasn't mandatory,
Hmm.
to take it. But she found something in me, that I really appreciated. And I don't know if everyone has an experience like that with teachers, but teachers to me is like the second generation of instructors, right? When you're born, the parents are the first, right? They're the teachers of
Hmm.
culture. They teach you how to get along, right? And then once you're into a school, the teachers are that next line and they're teaching you the world skills. And I would hope that everyone has an experience like that where they can point to a moment in time in school and say that, you know what, this was a turning point for me in school because, and I'll let you comment, the last thing you want as you're in the industry is to have one student, two student, 10, 20 just coasting through school. And then, as you mentioned, when they're 40, they're like, I was supposed to be married at 30. I'm 10 years, now I'm doing the air quotes, late. And now I'm starting my life at a much later time. And I'm guessing so many of those people go back to school to find themselves because now they're in a world that kind of looks scary.
Yeah. I mean, and these are the conversations I have with my tutors constantly because besides parents, as educators, we are kind of the next closest thing in terms of parents. And our job is to be role models and to help shape their minds. Learning and education is so much more than just the brain, it's the mind too. And the heart. Luckily, when I'm talking about, the kids coming up, I don't know how much interaction you have with the kids that, are K through 12, but their hearts are awesome. I mean, they are very heart centered, very empathic, big feelers. So they make our work a little easier because that's stuff that's hard to teach, right? Teaching people to care. They care. It's more about what do you do with all of that? How do I take all of this feeling, all this stuff that I'm worried about in the world, and all these changes I want to make, and how can I empower you to do that? And yes, being a parent is extremely critical. But, even as a teacher, I've had some parents when we sit down at conferences and they'll say, when I'm not here, this is your mom, like what she says goes. And I appreciate that because we really are all in this together. And it really should be a collaborative effect of we love these kids and we want them to succeed genuinely. We genuinely want them to be happy. Let's work together on this. And for those who've had those great experiences with a teacher, I mean, it makes me smile because I just as often hear of times where it's a bad teacher or a bad situation that made them hate a subject. And that's really unfortunate because I don't necessarily think there's bad teachers out there. I just think that we need to reevaluate the educational system, because we are in that position as educators to be really impactful. And I think we have to decide, what do we really want our kids to learn? Is it really about that science formula, or is it more about how to be a good person, or how to be a good leader? And so we have to think about the essential skills and consider, how can we do this? And that's one thing I'm excited about moving forward in 2021, because there's a spotlight shining on education, there's a spotlight shining on mental health, there's a spotlight shining on innovation in general and progress. And so I'm excited to see how things are going to change, because it's about time that we're in a position where we can inspire kids more, rather than being so focused on just those test scores and those grades.